everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I hope you're having a wonderful day, and today I'm finally gonna be doing my first Q&A video here on YouTube, which I had promised you guys ever since hitting the 1,000 subscriber mark, but I'm finally gonna do it today. I'm not gonna lie, it's a little bit scary, but I'm just gonna do it anyway. So I have compiled a list of 10 questions that I have been asked here on YouTube and over on other social media channels as well. So if you're interested in getting to know a little bit more about me, then that's awesome, stick around, and if you're not, then that's perfectly fine as well. I would absolutely love for you to go and check out my other videos. Alright, so before getting started with the first question, I just want to take a moment to welcome all you new people just visiting my channel for the very first time. Consider subscribing because every single Friday I share a new video with art tips, drawing and painting tutorials, and encouragement for aspiring artists. And I also want to send out a huge thank you to the people that have joined my new membership site over on Patreon, because you guys make it possible for me to keep creating these videos. If any of you are interested in gaining access to my most exclusive content in the form of real-time tutorials and a bunch of other things, then make sure to check the link to my Patreon site down below in the description box. Alright you guys, let's get started with the first question. And I'm not really gonna mention who asked each of these because I kind of merged some of the questions that were similar together. So firstly, someone asked or said, tell us about your childhood and art education. So when I was a little girl, I did a ton of craft projects. I did draw, but I wouldn't say that I started drawing since I was a little girl. I think most people draw when they're young, but I did do a ton of craft projects and I started doing a lot of collage and stuff like that. My room was full of arts and crafts project that I decorated with. Then later on, I think that I started, my creativity started coming out more with writing than with visual arts, to be honest. I have always loved to read and write, and I think that is a reason why I've been able to keep up my blog, because I like to write. But aside, that's pretty much me when I was very young. I started actually writing chapter stories when I was very young, like 8 years old. I also wrote a lot of poems when I was in my pre-teens and teens that I would not like to take out right now. I didn't really start drawing intentionally with the purpose of improving, and I didn't start painting until way later. When I was in high school, I finally took my first actual artsy course, and it was photography, and back then we actually had dark rooms. And it was around this time as well that I took my first actual drawing course, and it was a comics drawing course. So at the end of high school, when it came time to decide on a major that I would be choosing for university, I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. I was always very mediocre in every single subject in school, to be honest. I hated math. I hated numbers. I've never understood numbers even to the day. The only thing I knew was that I was good at creative things, and I hadn't even narrowed it down to any specific skill. All I knew was that it was through creative things like writing and drawing and even music that I felt most like myself. And so I decided to go into graphic design because for me, graphic design, at least there was more of a chance in my brain that I would be able to make a stable income soon after graduating. So I'm glad that I chose to go into graphic design because I came out with a lot of knowledge in regards to computers and software that I have been able to use all throughout my past jobs and even right now that I am a full-time artist. Moving on to question number 2, and this person wants to know, are other members of your family artists as well? And the answer to this is no. Nobody is an artist. Nobody in my immediate family, nobody in my extended family. There are a couple of entrepreneurs, and there are lots of teachers. My mom is a teacher, my grandma is a teacher, so maybe I got that from them, but nobody is an artist. And sometimes I feel like if there was an artist in my family, if I had that experience of having one of my parents, or even, you know, a grandma or a grandpa or an aunt or an uncle who were artists, I feel that I would have gotten started a lot sooner. As I mentioned before, I was very lost for a very long time, until probably my mid-20s. Having that kind of role model would have helped me a lot, kind of make things a bit faster for me. But in my personal situation, I really had to go through experiences of going through jobs that left me unfulfilled, and just discovering, peeling back the layers that made me myself, and finally discovering what it is that I wanted to do with my life. It took a while for me to discover that. Now, all this said, even though I was lost for a very long time in my life, something that I really love about myself is that ever since I was a little girl, I kind of marched to the beat of my own drum. I have never found happiness or fulfillment in following what other people around me are doing. I have never understood that mentality, and for me, it's just a complete waste of time to do what other people are doing just because that's what the majority of the people are doing if I get no fulfillment out of it. Slowly, I made time to peel back the layers, to discover what it is that I wanted to do with my life, and finally, when I arrived at that conclusion, I put my blinders on and I didn't care what anyone said. I knew that it was gonna be tough, but I just decided to go for it 100% because I knew that nothing was gonna make me happier than creating art and becoming an artist. Question number 3 is, what inspires you to create? This is a good question. So for me, in my opinion, one of the main purposes of art, whether it's visual arts or literature or cinematography or music, is to kind of wake people up about the realities of life. Whether they be positive or negative, they make you stop and actually think for a moment about the things that you have inside of yourself and the things that are external to you and how they relate. I guess generally speaking, that is what I want my artwork to do. But in terms of me specifically as an artist, I feel that as a person that struggles with anxiety and is very much affected by the negativity and the fast pace of the world that we're living in today, I really want my quest towards finding inner peace and happiness to serve as the purpose behind my art making. Because for me, my art, when I'm creating art, it is one of the few activities that makes me just stop time or make time stand still for me and be able to actually appreciate the beauty of an object or be mindful of the beauty that is around me. And this is exactly what I want my artwork to be for other people. I want people who see my paintings to have a moment of inspiration in which time stands still and they are able to appreciate the beauty of common objects and just remind them of everything that we still have to be thankful for. Question number 4 is, what is your favorite art movement? So in terms of art movements, I am really drawn to post-impressionism. I love how these artists use bold brushstrokes and visible texture, and how they also manipulated color to the point that the colors weren't as naturalistic anymore. Specific artists that I really love from the post-impressionist movement are artists like Cézanne, Gauguin, of course Van Gogh, and another artist that I really love is Toulouse-Lautrec. However, aside from this artistic movement, I also am really drawn by the work created by American realist artists in the 1930s, 1940s, and even 1920s. Around this time, artists like Andrew Wyeth and Edward Hopper, their work just has such a great narrative to it. It's like that it's telling you a story and it makes you think when you're seeing it. And I just really admire their work as well. Question number 5 is, what are some of your favorite tools to create art? I consider myself much more of a painter than I am a drawer. However, I do feel that drawing is the basis for all kinds of art, and I always recommend all artists keep some sort of sketchbook or drawing habit throughout their entire journeys. It doesn't really matter what kind of medium they're intending to specialize in. Now, this isn't to say that every single one of your drawings has to have high levels of realism. And in fact, I really believe it's important that as artists, we're able to put our ideas down on paper fast, in a faster way. In terms of drawing, I really love sketching using pen and ink, as well as regular old pencils. And in terms of painting mediums, I really love watercolors and oils. I have been told by people visiting my channel that I have a very large variety of tips and tutorials videos in terms of mediums and subjects and things of the sort. Now, the fact of the matter is that my channel is like this because I myself am constantly pushing myself in all of these different directions. Personally, for me, it's what makes me happy to be constantly exploring different subjects and different mediums, and I personally feel that my work just becomes better by doing this. And not only this, but I really attribute this constant exploration and stepping out of my comfort zone to not getting into a creative block as frequently as other artists. I don't think I would ever want to be or could be the kind of artist that only specializes in one particular painting or drawing medium. I feel for myself, I totally respect other artists who do, but for me, I would be very, very bored, and it would honestly feel like I would be cutting off a limb. So my channel is always going to be very varied in terms of content. Question number 6 is, why don't you draw anime? When I was around 12 or 13, for several years actually, I was a huge Sailor Moon fan. And I guess you could even say that I started for the very first time developing my observational and drawing skills through copying Sailor Moon trading cards. The thing that happened is that later on, as I wanted to continue growing my artistic skills, when I finally got to a point at which I wanted to get serious about it, for me, it was very important to learn how to draw believable proportions. Now, I am not a very knowledgeable person in regards to anime, but the kind of anime that I have seen, the characters have very long legs, they have very big eyes, sometimes very big heads, and things like that. And so I wanted to learn how to actually draw believable proportions so that then I could, once I learned the rules, deviate off from that and create my own style. So that's the other thing. I have never been interested in being boxed into a specific category or labeled as any particular thing, which is one of the reasons why I don't even do fan art. Now, the only reason why I would ever do some sort of fan art is because I myself saw something and was very touched or moved by a particular movie or series or whatever it may be. Lately, I finished watching The Umbrella Academy and I absolutely loved it, and I even thought about creating something, some drawing or painting inspired by The Umbrella Academy, but we'll see. But the point of the matter is that it's mainly those reasons. I didn't want to be categorized as an anime artist. I wanted to do my own thing. Hopefully in the future I'll be able to create my own style, and yeah, I don't like being boxed into any categories, and I really wanted to study believable proportion. Now, this is not to say that I don't hold Japanese artists and, you know, their story making in very, very high regard. I really respect all of the artists that do anime and choose to go through that path, but it just wasn't for me. So yeah. Question number 7 is, how do you know what to talk about in your videos? This is a great question. So I have had the honor and the fortune of being able to teach art to people of all different ages, starting from tiny kids all the way to older adults of all different levels, and using a variety of mediums for over 6 years now. And throughout this time, I have been able to kind of compile in my head and have a general knowledge of common areas of struggle and just questions that come up over and over and over again. And so the moment that I start making or creating content to share in the online world, I started basing my content off of that, of my previous experiences from classes that I actually taught physically. And throughout this time that I have been creating content that I share over at my blog and this YouTube channel, I have been able to compile even more comments and more areas of concern and struggle. And so now I try to base my content that I create off of that. Question number 8 is, who inspired you to pursue arts in university? And the answer to this question is absolutely no one. I made that decision by myself, for myself, based on my intuition and based on the things that I were experiencing that made me happy and fulfilled. Though, as I mentioned before, I had no idea if that particular major, which was graphic design, was going to ultimately be the one for me. Fortunately, I think that I made the right choice. As I mentioned before, even though no one in my immediate or extended family were even in creative fields, much less became artists, something that I do love about my family is that they encourage me to go after what I was passionate about. Even though they weren't artists themselves, they kind of get it. And they encouraged me to just go after what felt right for me. So I really love them for that. Question number 9 is, who are your artistic heroes? I already mentioned a few of the artists throughout history that I really admire and am super drawn to, but I really want to mention in this one that I have always, ever since I was a little girl, been drawn to multi-talented, multifaceted artists. I remember being in elementary and having one of my teachers read us one of those big poem books by Shel Silverstein, and I remember being so inspired and in awe with how he was able to both write and create illustrations for his books. And later on in my life, I got to know about more people who are also very good at a variety of things simultaneously. Just to name a few, Rob Zombie is a musician who also creates artwork and designs a lot of his covers for his albums, and he also directs movies. Juliette Binoche, Jim Carrey and James Franco are actors who also create artwork, and there are a bunch of these people that I can name. I am really drawn to that kind of person, and I really strive to be like that as well someday. Question number 10 is, what are your favorite things to do when you aren't working on art-related tasks? I am sorry to say that I'm a very boring, chill person. I like being at home, but when I am not working, which is a very small amount of time that I'm not working, I love to watch movies, I love to watch series, I love to chill with my husband and with my cats, and I also love to read, I love to write, and I love to exercise. Alright everyone, that is it for today. I hope that you enjoyed this first Q&A here at my channel. Let me know in the comment section below if you resonated with any of the things that I shared with you today. I would be super appreciative of a like because it helps my channel get in front of more people. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you guys so much, and see you next Friday.